Hello everyone, welcome back to our discussion on class Reptilia. In the last session we have discussed about the two subclasses coming under Reptilia, which was Synapsida, which were the group of animals without any temporal foci. The examples coming under were the turtles, the tortoises and the terrapins. And also we discussed about an extinct subclass which is Parapsida, which are the organisms with a temporal foci in the skull, which is the supratemporal foci. And we discussed about the extinct organism, Ichthyosaurus, its characters, etc. And now we are at going to discuss in this session. We'll be discussing the other two subclasses of Reptilia, which is the subclass Synapsida and subclass Diapsida. So first is subclass Synapsida. So this is a subclass or group of animals with a foci, with a single foci in the skull, which is the infratemporal foci. This is also a subclass with no living representatives. All the animals or the representatives are extinct. And this is a group which is considered to be the ancestors of mammals. There are three orders recognized in this subclass, which is Pelicosauria, Therapsida, and Ichthyosauria. The examples coming under these three orders are Dimetrodon, Cynognathus, and Tritylodon. In this, we will be discussing in detail of the order Therapsida and its example, which is Cynognathus. So coming to the examples, we are directly moving with the example Cynognathus. The name indicates dog jaw. So it is having a jaw which is similar to that of the dog, and hence the name. It comes under the order Therapsida. It is an extinct mammal like reptile with having the size of a dog. You can see the image which is shown, which shows the fossil of a therapsid. So it is almost the size of a dog. It is a predatory carnivore. The body, the skull and limbs are similar to reptiles. All the limbs are of equal size. The body is provided with hairs, and it was warm-blooded. So because of the presence of hairs, it is hypothesized to be warm-blooded. Then the fossils were recovered from southern hemisphere, including South Africa, Argentina, Antarctica, etc. So the predatory or the carnivorous behavior is hypothesized with their type of dentition. The type of dentition, by analyzing the type of dentition, it was hypothesized that they were predatory and they were carnivorous in nature. And the other diagrams which shows of the Cynognathus, which is shown at the bottom. So they are all animated versions of the fossils. The fossils are recovered, and all the details that is mentioned here is from studies from the fossils which were recovered. So that's with the order Therapsida and its example Cynognathus. So with this we come to the end of the third subclass, which was Synapsida. So taking a quick recap. So synapsids are with a single infratemporal foci, no living representatives like Parapsida. They are considered to be the ancestors of mammals. And the example we dealt with is of Cynognathus, which is a dog-like reptile. It is an extinct mammal-like reptile. Being like a dog, it is predatory carnivore. Then limbs are of equal size, and the hairs are present. And warm-blooded. The presence of hairs and warm-bloodedness is the relatedness that show with the mammals. And because of such features, they are considered to be the ancestors of mammals. So that's with the third subclass, which is Synapsida. Moving on to the fourth subclass, which is Diapsida. The organisms with a skull having both the temporal foci, both the supratemporal as well as the infratemporal foci. The living representatives are included under three orders. They are the Rhynchocephalia, example is Sphenodon. The second one is Quamata, which includes lizards and snakes, and the third one is Crocodilia, which includes crocodiles, alligators, gavialis. So first, in this session, we'll be dealing with Rhynchocephalia. The example is Sphenodon, the first order coming under Diapsid, which is Rhynchocephalia. So coming to the order Rhynchocephalia, the term Rhynchocephalia means beak-headed. The salient features are the organisms, the only organism under this order is the Sphenodon. Only this Sphenodon is extinct, the all other are extinct. The living representatives, the only living representative is Sphenodon, and that is seen only in New Zealand. It is not seen elsewhere in the world, it is seen only in New Zealand. It is restricted to that particular portion. So it is the body is small and elongate and lizard-like. The skin is covered with scales with a mid-dorsal row of spine, so that can be seen here. So I have put some images of the Sphenodon, or otherwise called as Totora. So it is almost like a lizard, or like the size little bit larger than that of the normal Calotus or chameleon. And you can see this I have shown to show their size. Here you can see the mid dorsal of spines. Okay, the spines will be absent in the neck region. The spines are absent. Another thing is limbs are pentadactyl and the claws are present. The parietal foramen, or foramen means an opening with a vestigial pineal eye. With a pineal eye, this is a speciality of this particular group. There is a third eye, which is also called as the parietal organ or the pineal eye, which is situated on the roof of the cranium, is present. It is called as an eye because it is having many histological features of the eye, like lens, then the optic nerves which is leading to the brain, etc., present, but they are vestigial, means they are non-functional. Even though they are having retina, etc., they are non-functional. It is hypothesized that their ancestors of this Sphenodon might possess this as a functional eye, but the ones which exist now does not have, or they are having this, but that is vestigial without any function. So this is with the salient features of the order Rhynchocephalia. We are directly moving on to the example, which is Sphenodon, also called as Tautara. Tautara is a local name for an animal which is having spines. It is also called as Hateria. Sphenodon, Tautara, or Hateria are these are the different terms or different names which is used for this particular animal. So this particular organism is considered to be the oldest known living reptile. This is considered as a living fossil, because this particular organism does not have had any of the evolutionary changes for the past many millions of years. So how do you calculate, or how do you assume it is that the fossils which were recovered, the oldest fossil which was recovered for this particular organism is having the same features, or it shows the same features of the organism which exist now, and that is why we say it is a living fossil which does not have undergone any evolutionary change. That's why we call it as a living fossil. And this one is an endemic organism to New Zealand. It is not seen anywhere in the world. It is seen only in New Zealand. And in New Zealand itself, it is seen, or it is restricted to some islands. Only in some islands, or in 10 or so islands in New Zealand, you can see this particular animal. It is an insectivorous nocturnal reptile. The skin is covered with scale, as you see in the case of other lizards. It is covered with scale. And another important thing is they are having a mid-dorsal row of spine, as we saw in the previous image. There is a row of spines on the mid-dorsal region of the body. And the spines are absent on the neck region. The neck region, the spines are absent. As you can see the diagram, they are having a vertical pupil. Then the dentition is acrodont. So you can see the acrodont type of dentition here. That means that the tooth is just placed on top of the jawbone. On top of the jawbone, it is not inserted, it is just placed on top. You can see the other two here, pleurodont as well as thecodont. In pleurodont, it is attached in an oblique manner, in a sidewise pattern. In thecodont, you can see the teeth is immersed or inserted into the jawbone, but here In acrodont, it is not inserted, it is placed on top, just on top of the jaw bone, and that is why it is called, or such a type of dentition is called as acrodont type of dentition. The tail is autotomous. So this particular feature, autotomy, is shown by many of the reptiles. Examples of a lizard. When it is attacked by a predator, or when it need to escape from a particular situation, what it does is it is cutting off or self amputation of its tail. So that is also shown by this particular animal, and that is what is called as tail is autotomous, in the sense that it can self amputate its tail as a method or as a measure for self defense. It self amputates its tail, so which is shown by the normal house lizards. This also shows this particular phenomenon, which is called as it is also having an autotomous tail. Sphenodon also have many, as we said, it is a living fossil. It shows many primitive features. The diapsid skull with an immovable quadrate, which is a primitive feature. The abdominal ribs are embedded in the muscles of the body wall. Actually, it is in the modern reptiles, it is not embedded in the muscle, but here, as a primitive feature, it is the bones or the ribs are embedded in the muscle of the body wall. And next is another primitive feature, an Amphicellus vertebrae. When we discussed about the salient features of reptiles, we said that generally reptiles are having a procoelous vertebrae. So procoelous, we said that it is having, so it is this particular terminology is relating to the drum, or relating to the shape of the drum of the vertebra, which is called as a centrum. So in the case of procoelous, we said that one side it is concave in the anterior and convex in the posterior, like this. This was procoelous. Coming to Amphicellus, in Amphicellus the condition is like this. The centrum will be like this. This is the Amphicellus type of vertebra. The centrum like this means both the sides of the centrum is having concavity. Both side concave centrum is called as Amphisealer. So the vertebrae of our Sphenodon or Tautora is having an Amphisealous type of vertebra. And another speciality of the vertebral column is that vestiges of the notochord. So notochord is a primitive feature or a primitive structure that is seen in the most primitive chordates, like protochordates, etc. But when you come to higher chordates or vertebrates, the notochord is getting modified into the vertebral column. So in them, vertebral column is there, but vestiges of the notochord can be seen between the vertebral column, between two vertebral column, between their centrum, you can see the vestiges of the notochord. So that is also a primitive feature. Then the absence of a copulatory organ. So when you come to reptiles, because they are having an internal fertilization, they show an internal type of fertilization. They are having males are having a copulatory organ with which they deposit the sperm into the female's reproductive tract. But in Sphenodon, because it is having, or it is a primitive, or it does not have undergone any evolutionary changes, copulatory organs are absent, and their fertilization is external fertilization, like amphibians, where the sperms are sprayed on top of the egg, like how frogs do. The sperms are sprayed over the egg through the cloaca. So there is no separate copulatory organ for depositing the sperm onto the body of the female. So here fertilization is or it is done with the help of cloaca. So there is no special organ for that. So the purpose of it uses cloaca for the purpose, as in the case of amphibians. So it sprays or the sperms come out of the male's body through the cloaca, and that is deposited into the female. So presence of the parietal organ or pineal gland, that is another important feature that is seen in Sphenodon. In young Sphenodon, the parietal organ or a pineal eye is well developed. You can see it clearly in an young one. But later when it gets older, what happens is this particular thing being vestigial, it will be surrounded by some opaque, or it will be surrounded and usually covered by opaque scales. In adult one, you cannot see it clearly. But on close observation, you can find this particular thing which is called as a parietal organ. But in young ones, it can be seen, or it is most prominently seen in young ones. So this particular organ, the parietal organ or the pineal eye, is situated in the parietal foramen. Parietal foramen means it is an opening on the cranial roof. It is seen in the parietal foramen. And the parietal organ is usually considered as a third eye, which might have been functional in their ancestors, but it is now vestigial in the Sphenodon or Totora that you see now. It is histologically an eye. Histologically an eye means it is having some of the structures that is associated with an eye, like the lens, the retina, and the nerve connections to the brain. But it is not a visual organ physiologically, in the sense that it does not have visual perception. It does not have anything to do with the perception of light or a perception of an image, etc. So that is it is non-functional in the case of Sphenodon. That's why it is called as vestigial. So vestigial organs, or something when you call it as vestigial, these are structures which are present in the body of an organism, but it does not have any function. So such organs are hypothesized to be having some function in their ancestors. Humans also have such organs which are said to be vestigial, like your vermiform appendix, then coccyx. Coccyx means the particulars in some that means coccyx is the vestigial region of the tail, which is seen in the caudal region of our vertebra. Another thing is the nictiform, or the membrane that you see, or the vestiges of the membrane that you see at the corners of the eye, of the nicticating membrane. So nicticating membrane were present in birds, in reptiles, etc. But when mammals developed eyelashes, the function of a nicticating membrane became non-functional, and it has now restricted in the form of a small tissue at the corner of the eyes, which is called as the remnants or the vestigial portion of the nicticating membrane. And you have the vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix is also considered to be vestigial organ. That means it was functional in the ancestor, but it is not functional. The same is the case with the parietal eye, parietal organ or the pineal eye that is seen in Sphenodon. So with this, we conclude this session on the first order of diapsid, which was Rhynchocephalia. In the next session, we'll discuss about the other two orders coming under diapsids, which are the order Squamata, as well as the order Crocodilia, which includes lizards, snakes, etc., and also Crocodilia, which includes the crocodiles, alligators, and gavialis. Thank you.